had some inquiries about the carrier systems from people. They're not quite sure what it amounts to. Some of the ones that I've used in other videos are more complicated, looking like this, where I have welded on those things, and this one where I have some tabs welded on. But these are for blanks that I do really frequent, and I do in large quantities. So this one I usually cut like 80 at a time, and this one I'll cut about 30 at a time. And so I want to be able to grind those fast and not have to clamp and unclamp every single time I change one. So if I can flip it on there, it just pins into place. I'll grind that side, flip it over, pin it in there, and grind again without having to stop and clamp and unclamp. Same with this one here. So what I'll do is have it set up so I can put it on there, I'll do the grind, flip it over, grind the other side. But this isn't necessary all the time but this kind of guide isn't necessary for single blanks. And there is enough benefit, in my opinion, in doing a carrier for a single blank that it makes it worthwhile. Now when I do a single blank, what I'll use is I have a bunch of these cut. They're 2 inches by 16 inches long, 16 gauge mild steel, and you can get three or four different profiles on one piece, and they're super cheap to get. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show how to set up make a carrier for this knife, how I would do it. I just put it to the end. I'm just using this block as a flat surface. Okay. Change hands here. Okay, just put something up there so I know it's against the end. And everything's flat so that I can duplicate that position again. That's the important thing, and behind the carrier is being able to duplicate your position is basically all it's doing. Now I'm going to draw the profile. You can see that along here the profile is flat, so I don't really need to do anything there. But around here I need to follow the profile of the blade. Just scribe my mark. Now we'll go over to the sander and cut that back. Okay, over to the sander, I'm going to run this on high speed just to get that off quick. I'll put it on higher speed. I'm going to use a 36 grit belt. I'm not going to mess around. Just get it gone. Slow this thing back down. Okay, now I'm just going to clean it up a little bit, get rid of the 36 grit scratches. You can see that didn't take very long to get done. Now we're back over here. What I'm going to do is set this up again. that that matches right along the edge. Now you can see right here that this shelf, the stainless steel spacer plate is sticking out slightly in there. That's where the carrier will ride on top of that. See if I can get a view of it. Okay, so the carrier will ride in there like that. Let me get down there. The carrier down there sitting on top of that. I'm going to set the thickness of this for the moment. It needs to slide in and out smooth. Move this one, tighten this up a little bit and move it back a hair. Alright, what I'm going to use on this knife for the stop is I'm going to let this thing hit the side of the guide right in this area. And I centered the guide so that it will give me an even grind when I do that. Here on the back of my guide, on the back of my platinum, I have a steel plate that I use to set my angle of the platen. Okay, looks like we're at 89. I'm going to change that to 85. $7.86. Wrong way. Oops. Yep, I bumped it. Alright, we got it set at 85. Snug that down, get rid of this. I'm going to run a 36 grit belt on this. Now, normally I would run this during this kind of a grind at full speed, which is 7,200 surface feet per minute on the sander. I'm not going to run that fast for this one, for the video. The technique that I'm going to use is basically keep the knife flat when it's flat, and just let the carrier ride along on that spacer plate. So as this thing moves, I'll rotate it up and around. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so in just a few minutes, it's cut that. So what I would do next, when I get to the point that I'm finished with this side, I'll put the blank on the other side of the carrier, and I'll line it up like I was doing before. I'll find a flat surface and line it up. needs to be in the exact same position, because that's the job that the carrier does, is puts it in the exact same position. Hard to do with a camera. Alright, so I moved back over to the bench, and one of the reasons that I do some of the work on the guides that I showed earlier is because this takes a couple of minutes, and if you're doing 60 or 70 knives, you know, taking 2-3 minutes to do this each time adds up. So now I've got this on here, and then I would go and, you know, you'd have a mark or something so you could match the other side. But you can see how fast it ground it nicely. And that was at an 85-degree bevel. So it, you know, it went up. That would be a good bushcraft knife, not too thin on the edge and not too thin in there. It's got enough meat in there behind the cutting edge. And so that's how you would do it. I mean, it's pretty simple, even for a single edge or a single blank. If that's all you're cutting is a one custom, still worth it to me, because the speed and accuracy. One thing about the bevel guide is the Cubitron tube belts really love it, and they like the edge down grinding. This one has ground more than 50 blanks and still going good, edge down. It looks like crap, but it's still rocking hard. The pressure that the guide allows you to put on, and the guide allows you to run your sander at a very high speed. Those ceramic grit belts really love the high pressure and the high speed to keep them fractured and sharp. If you run slower speed or lower pressures, your belt will start to get dull and it won't fracture and keep sharp edges exposed. And so those belts really like that guide because of that ability. And so then what I would do is go back over there, and this time I would come from the other side of the guide. And then the thing you'd have to watch for is to make sure you match up here. That's going to take some practice, you know, to know where you're going to match up. You can put a stop on these if you want to put a stop back there, or you draw a mark where you want your ricasso to be, or your plunge line to be. Thanks for watching. Take care.